everybody. This is Brian O'Haron. You just heard John Philip Sousa's Stars and Stripes Forever, which will have major significance in tonight's program. In July of 1944, I was 6 years old, and my brother Dennis was 4 1/2 years old. When my father and mother told us one day that we were going to go, along with a cousin, Susan Carter, from Chicopee, Massachusetts, to Hartford, Connecticut, to see the greatest show on earth, the Ringling Brothers Barnum and Bailey Circus. We were delighted. My cousin was staying with my father's sister, my aunt and uncle, Arthur and Kathleen Bruzy, at their summer cottage on Perch Rock Trail on the east shore of Highland Lake, because Susan's mother was having her 7th child. On the day, July 6th, 1944, my brother and I jumped into the rumble seat of my uncle's early model Ford, and my father and mother drove us to Highland Lake, to my aunt and uncle's house, to pick up my cousin Susan. My father took a picture of the 3 cousins in our Sunday best with an old Kodak Brownie camera. You can see this picture tonight. Brian on the left, Susan in the middle, and my brother Dennis on the right. And we were as happy as clams. We children then jumped into the rumble seat and drove off to Hartford to see the circus. Once in Hartford, my father parked the car at the home of my mother's uncle and aunt across the street from the Hartford-Bulkley High School. And we took a bus to the field where the Ringling Brothers tent was pitched. We later found out that the tent was soaked in a waterproofing mixture of paraffin and kerosene, or perhaps gasoline. Once there, we entered the giant circus tent, and we were lucky to have climbed up the green wooden bleachers near the entrance exit, probably a precautionary decision by my mother and father. And we sat down about 10 rows or less from the bottom, and perhaps as many rows from the top. My mother always wore the customary fashionable high heels of the day and didn't like to climb too high in the bleachers. We sat down where the tent began to pitch towards the roof of the big top. About 20 minutes into the circus, the Great Wallendas were in the middle of performing their famous high wire act, and the performing lions were entering the center ring, as I remember it, through protective chutes from their cages outside the tent. I heard someone yell, "Fire!" It started, many believe, but no one knows for sure, by a carelessly flicked cigarette, or perhaps an arsonist. And someone pointed to the far corner in front of me, to the right, at the top of the tent. And I looked up and saw a small amount of fire starting to burn. I can still see it to this day. The ringmaster urged the audience not to panic and to leave in an orderly fashion. But the power failed, and he could not be heard. The circus band leader, who is said to be the first person to spot the flames immediately, began to play the Stars and Stripes Forever, the song that you heard at the beginning of the program tonight. The tune that you heard tonight, Stars and Stripes Forever, is traditionally used to signal distress to all circus personnel when there is a problem during the program. The panic began as the crowd began to flee the big top. Luckily, my father and mother did not panic. I'd never known them to panic. And they wasted no time in taking us by the arm and leading us under the bleachers. You can see people, when you see the picture of the fire in the tent, coming out from under the bleachers at the bottom of the tent, following the few others in front of us who may have pulled the stakes or cut a hole in the tent. I don't remember. I can briefly remember the panic that ensued inside the tent and the attempt to get the lions out through the chutes to their cages. They made it safely while getting a few burns from the falling hot paraffin. We headed across the empty surrounding field at the forefront of most of the survivors. I kept looking back over my shoulder as I ran sideways, holding my father's hand while moving very fast, and I witnessed a lot of the carnage and much of the disaster. I can remember most of it to this day. It took a very short 8 minutes for the tent to burn and about 167 to 169 people to perish in various ways. Over 700 people of the approximately 7,500 to 8,000 people present were injured to varying extents. The injured and near dying filled the hospitals in the surrounding areas. I found out later, when I was a little older, that Mrs. Thomas F. Wall Sr., Susan Wall, a summer Highland Lake resident, and her cousin Mary Cook from Torrington were both volunteer nurses helping the victims in Hartford that day and perhaps for many more days after the fire. We walked rapidly to the nearest bus stop and returned to my mother's, aunt, and uncle's house as fast as we could. I don't remember much about that, but a great discussion ensued. My mother's aunt and uncle had 11 children. My mother telephoned my cousin's family and the Bruzy family at Highland Lake, as well as other relatives, to let them know that we were all safe and sound. Many years later, when I wrote about my experience in a paper required for a high school English class, my teacher didn't believe me. When I mentioned this to my mother, she quickly produced evidence that she had returned the ticket stubs to the circus because they said they would donate a certain amount to charity for each returned ticket stub. She said, "Show the teacher a copy of this document," proving that she had returned the stubs. I did, and the teacher never doubted me again. The famous sad circus clown, Emmett Kelly Jr. His character was Weary Willie, invented by his father before him, Emmett Kelly Sr. The sad circus clown was one of the heroes of the fire, being credited with saving many people from the flames. I have a collection of memorabilia that contains the Emmett Kelly Jr. doll that I have here with me tonight. Once, when we were in our early 20s, Joyce and I were in Lake Tahoe to see a performance by Ella Fitzgerald. And Emmett Kelly Jr. was employed there as a greeter. I thanked him for his heroics during the fire, and many times since then, I've wished that I had taken a photograph of him at the time. I have been cautious around fire ever since the Circus fire. I dread candles when lit. My wife loves to light candles. And I am very careful and uncomfortable around burning fireplaces. I have them cleaned yearly as a precaution, whether they need it or not. I am very appreciative of the firefighters, the hazards that they face, and the dedication and equipment that they need. Tonight, I will discuss the Winsted Volunteer Fire Department with Chief Robert Shopey, Jr. and Assistant Chief David Sartorana. Welcome, Chief Shopey, and welcome, Assistant Chief Sartorana. Welcome, Chief Shopey and Assistant Chief Sartorana. Thanks for coming today and being on our program.
Oh, thank you, Brian.
Thanks for having us.
Welcome. Are you both employees of the town?
Yes, we are. We're both part-time employees.
Is the future of the fire department reaching a critical point in your estimation?
Yes, it is.
Why do you say that?
Family and training demands continue to place heavy burdens on present and future volunteers.
Is there still a waiting list to join the fire department?
No, the days of a waiting list are gone forever, unfortunately.
What do you need to meet the needs of the community and still provide above standard service?
Well, what we have to do is we have to strive to retain our present volunteers, and we need to become innovative in the recruitment of new volunteers within the future.
And what about equipment?
Well, equipment must be purchased and maintained to ensure a safe working environment. Our facilities must be sufficient to comfortably house our equipment as well as our personnel and provide space for adequate housing and training.
Are you managing to do that?
Well, we have made great strides in the past several years to enhance its preparedness and effectiveness. Equipment continues to be purchased and our training continues to be a high priority in the department. We still have more accomplishments to achieve, and the development of our first strategic plan is our first step in building this positive foundation.
And you presented this strategic plan to the Board of Selectmen recently.
Yes, we did.
What do you expect from the plan?
Well, first off, it is the responsibility of every one of our members of the department to improve our operation. This plan is part of that roadmap to our future in the delivery of our service and meeting the needs of our community.
Do you expect this plan to be a living document?
Yes, we do. As a matter of fact, that is within the plan. It will evolve as the department evolves. It's imperative that we conduct annual updates to ensure that the path and the common goals do remain those that are shared by the current fire service, the future fire service, and the community as it grows.
I know the fire department is one of the most respected groups in the town. Ever since I've been here, I've noticed that. Did you make any promises when taking the position as fire chief and assistant fire chief?
Yes, myself, David, and the other two chiefs, we all promised to be fair, impartial, dedicated, and we promised to lead a professional, respected department well into the future.
And I guess you're doing that, right?
Yes, thus far we've accomplished many of the goals that we set out to improve since day one. Yeah. And this strategic plan that we've developed will strengthen what we already accomplished and help carve our path for what remains to be done.
You know, the name of this program is Planning for Success, and I'm always happy to see people that are planning for success because it is rare in our day and age. What is the greatest asset of the Winsted Fire Department?
Well, we've always said, and we continue to say, that the greatest asset has always been and will continue to be the dedicated men and women who we all truly hold in the highest regard.
And what is the mission of the fire department?
Well, we do have a mission statement, and the mission statement is that our mission is to provide services necessary to minimize the loss of life and/or property threatened by the hazards of fire, explosions, hazardous materials, and rescue-related emergencies through fire suppression, code enforcement, and conscientious prevention and education. By building on more than a century of experience, the Winsted Fire Department is committed to being responsive to the needs of our community and its visitors, along with continuing to provide professional, dependable, and exemplary fire and rescue services.
That's good. Do you have core values?
Yes, we have 7 core values in our strategic plan. The first one is that we value our employees and have confidence in their training and abilities, and those would be our volunteers. Our second one is that we value public service and are committed to continuous improvement. The next is that we value community opinion and response as a means of identifying and addressing public safety and quality of life issues. The next is we value courtesy and customer satisfaction. The next is that we value the opportunity to work with other agencies as partners in community-oriented government. The next is we strive to be an exemplary department based on integrity, professionalism, teamwork, and service. And the last is that we will utilize all of our resources to provide the finest service to our community.
Now, in my short time back, since I retired and came back to the area, I can say that most people feel that you achieve these core values, and that I never hear a bad word about the fire department or their service.
We like to keep it that way.
Yeah, and I'm
We
sure
do have a large amount of community support.
Yeah, I'm sure you will in the future as well. Can you give us a little background of the Winsted Fire Department?
Yeah, the Winsted Fire Department was founded in 1862, which very shortly will be celebrating our 150th anniversary. We're presently putting together a committee for our 150th anniversary. So within the next several years, we will have a very large community-wide event to celebrate that. We serve a population of about just under 12,000 residents within the 32-mile boundaries of the town of Winchester. And we protect about $816 million worth of assessed property. We have about 142 professional volunteer firefighters. We provide 24-hour fire and rescue services. And we do have an excellent fire service rating, or ISO, Insurance Services Office rating, of 4, which is an excellent, excellent rating for a volunteer department.
Yeah, I'm glad to hear that. What's the highest rating anybody can get?
Well, the highest is 1, and there's only 2 departments in the state of Connecticut that are level 1, and that's Hartford and Milford.
Oh, very good. Okay, well, you'd be congratulated for that.
We actually have the same level of service as the city of Torrington, which is a career department.
Yeah, they're all paid down in Torrington.
Correct.
We respond to about 800 calls for service annually. What do you mean by that? What kind of calls do you actually get?
We do auto accidents, residential commercial building fires, hazardous material spills, cold water rescues, confined space rescues, automatic alarms, and other calls for assistance, either from the police department or from EMS, should they need assistance.
Well, I'm glad you're here, because I don't think most of the people in town realize how many different things that you have to address in the course of your working week and working time. What training and certifications do the firefighters receive?
Well, each firefighter, once they join the department, is provided with state-certified training and certification in firefighting. They are sent to the fire training school for their certifications, and they receive that in basic firefighting, vehicle extrication, hazardous materials mitigation, cold water rescue, confined space rescue, high-angle rescue. Basically, they're trained for all of the services that we provide to the community.
Very good. And what sort of apparatus do you have?
We have 5 pumpers or engines. We have an 85-foot tower ladder truck. We have a rescue truck, fire police vehicle, utility vehicle. We have a tactical unit, 2 ATVs, a rehab trailer, and we have a foam trailer which has been given to us by the state of Connecticut, which is the only one that's in the Litchfield County.
Oh, good.
Maybe we can go off just a little bit
Sure.
and talk about some of these
Absolutely.
apparatus that need to be replaced pretty
You're
soon.
welcome to. Go ahead.
Like
We got
our,
plenty of time
our
here.
rescue truck you know, it's an old beer delivery truck, and that is, it's old and it needs to be replaced soon, very soon. That's hopefully the next piece we can replace, along with possibly combining a pumper with that.
So it's actually an old beer delivery truck?
Yes.
Yeah.
Isn't that interesting?
Yeah, it was sort of converted into being a rescue truck for us. And as David said, we've looked at several options to try to save the community money. You know, fire apparatus is very expensive. As you might have seen, that Norfolk just received delivery a few weeks ago of their new pumper, which cost about $550,000. So rather than buy a rescue truck and a pumper to replace the pumper that the daytime driver uses, we've looked at ways to maybe combine the two into a rescue pumper so we can have one vehicle that replaces two and provides the same level of service. So we are looking at what we need to do. We do have several other vehicles that need to be replaced. Engine 1 is a 1989 FMC pumper. The manufacturer isn't even in business anymore. That needs to be replaced. Engine 4 was delivered to us in 1984, so it's 25 years old. It's seen its life. You know, we do a lot of service calls a year, and it has it's seen its time.
Were these vehicles bought new or secondhand when you first picked them up?
Well, the beer delivery truck obviously
Oh,
was
used.
used, but the pumpers were all new.
And you do all your own maintenance on these vehicles here?
Some.
Yeah, most of our maintenance, we have 2 in-house mechanics, and they do most of the basic maintenance. If there's some serious issues that they cannot do, then they are sent out. But we try to do as much as we can in-house to again save money.
Have you ever had a fire where you couldn't get the truck out of the garage?
Yes, we have. We've had several times we've had calls for service that some pieces of apparatus have not been able to roll from the building.
Not good. Where is this equipment housed?
Well, we do have 3 fire stations. The main fire headquarters is located on Elm Street, where it has been for you know, over 100 years. We have a station on Prospect Street, as well as a station on Hollywood Avenue, and both of them were built just after the flood, after the buildings were destroyed during the flood. So Hollywood Avenue and Prospect Street were built in 1956.
I imagine they need a lot of work.
Well, we have, over the years, the department has been putting some money into them and trying to do some replacement, you know, of different things that are failing us. And they continue to have problems. You know, the original furnace and original windows are still in the buildings. And as well as, you know, there's a furnace that's probably 50 years old in the fire headquarters. And, you know, last year, and I believe I brought it up to the selectmen, we are burning in the winter months 60 gallons of fuel a day.
Wow.
So it's, you know, we constantly, you know, every year we put into the capital expenditure funds to begin a replacement of the furnaces and windows and things, but in the present climate of, you know, economic climate, it's becoming more and more difficult to do this. So
Yeah, the quarters are really tight there too. You know, there's maybe 3.5 feet, 3 to 4 feet in between the trucks to get down in between them, and you know, we need a bigger space.
Yeah. And that presents difficulties getting in and out of the trucks
Yeah.
and getting down there and everything?
Yeah.
Do you have any relationship with the fire departments in other communities?
yeah, we actually have an excellent working relationship with our surrounding communities. We provide all of them with mutual aid. We supplement their equipment as well as they supplement ours. We train together and we provide personnel during emergencies. As a matter of fact, we were speaking this past week with New Hartford. The town of New Hartford is going to have a large drill at one of their larger apartment complexes that they have in town, and we will be assisting them there to provide them with our tower ladder and an engine to train along with them, so should such type of emergency happen in the future, that we will already have that working relationship and be able to provide them with service right away and be able to work well together with them.
Just a week or two ago, I was driving down old Route 8 there between Winsted and Torrington. I saw the fire departments down there.
That was the Torrington drill.
Yeah, there was a drill down there, right?
Yeah, and we provided mutual aid to Torrington for that. They had a live fire training, and we assisted them with water supply with Engine 2.
Do you have paid firefighters? I know most of them aren't paid, but I just wonder if you have any paid firefighters.
Yeah, we have one paid firefighter on duty during the day, Monday through Friday. He works between 8 and 4. and he supplements the calls for service that come in during the day. As many people know, that since many of the factories and industrial businesses have moved from the town over the years, with that goes many of our volunteers. So our ability to provide a large group of volunteers during the day has been diminished over the years, which has forced us to maintain having a paid firefighter during the day. And most of our calls, about a third of our calls happen during the day. So to provide that level of service, we have that paid firefighter. During 2008, we had almost 300 calls during the daytime hours in which the daytime firefighter responded to. So it's very important to
It's
have
almost
them
one
there.
a day. Yeah. How long has the department been providing fire prevention?
147 years. As I said, that we're approaching our 150th anniversary and are starting to prepare for that celebration as we speak.
Have you got any idea, like, what was the first one? A horse and carriage, or a horse and buggy, or a horse and wagon, or
That we had as a fire truck?
what do you think they did in 147 years
Oh,
ago?
we do have photographs from, not exactly the beginning, but from 100 years ago, all the way up until, recently. So we actually had the opportunity to get one of our old ladder trucks that was from the 30s. Somebody within the state of Connecticut has it and refurbished it and offered it to us. But unfortunately, we don't have the facilities now to house our present equipment, and to take on another piece just to have to show or to bring to parades was not really feasible for us, so we weren't able to take that.
Oh, that's a long time, 147 years. But, long time, huh? What are the most prevalent, unique challenges the department faces?
Well, right now our challenges are decentralized growth within the community. Financial limitations is giving us a large amount of problems right now. Decreased revenues, our need for new facilities. As we spoke about, the antiquated apparatus that we presently have, and we continue to have those staffing obstacles that, of getting new volunteers.
It's harder and harder all the time to get volunteers, huh?
Yeah.
Well, it's harder to keep them too.
Yeah.
There's a lot of training and stuff, and it takes away from their families. And
Sure. It's not the commitment that it was even 20 years ago.
No? Well, that's a shame. I can remember when I first went as a child to the Torrington Old Firehouse, the first one there on Water Street. And when I go to see my grandchildren in Maine, and sometimes they just came back from a trip to the firehouse. They're, little 5, 6, 7, and 8 year olds.
Part of our fire prevention program, we still have visits to the firehouse, or we bring the firehouse to them. We bring the fire apparatus to the schools and to the kindergartens and the preschools, and show them the equipment and have them try on the jackets and the coat or the helmets like
Yeah,
the
that's
kids
good.
like to do.
I think when I went over there today to pick up the sign, I saw a couple of those helmets.
Yep. And we
in
give
the
out the little helmets.
Yeah.
The unfortunate part is that's become a budget cut, and we're losing.
another budget cut.
We lost 90% of the fire prevention budget over the last year.
Wow.
And that puts a big hindrance on being able to provide these little services that we do.
A lot of the tools that we have, the equipment that we use, we got through federal grants, and if we
They're
can't.
drying up.
Yeah, well, they've pretty much dried up. Yeah.
What are some of the department's most important assets?
Well, I think our biggest and most important asset is our skilled, dedicated, and motivated personnel. We do offer unlimited training opportunities, and as we said right at the beginning, we have extremely strong community support. We have an excellent working relationship with our surrounding communities, which helped us greatly.
And very synergistic. I mean, do you compliment them, or do they compliment you, or do you compliment each other, or do any of them have any equipment
There are
you
many
don't have?
times that some of the services that we provide we couldn't do without our surrounding communities helping us.
Yeah.
So, without them, we would not be the department that we are presently today.
Yeah, and I see wherever I see anything to do with the state now in the last year and a half or so, they're trying to get more and more people working at the regional level,
Right.
sharing things, doing things together, which is wise when you can do it.
We have a regional rope team, which because it's very expensive to put specialized groups together because of the equipment that's needed. So we have a regional rope team, which is based out of Riverton, and we provide personnel, and we supplement the equipment, and we all get to share for that. So it doesn't cost us the total cost of it. We all sort of pay a little part of the price. We have a regional RIT team, which is a rapid intervention team. So between Norfolk and New Hartford, we have shared purchasing the equipment and putting together people for that. And so we all share in the success of that also.
I would think, as we speak here, that this is, fire people that work in there and they volunteer to be on the fire department and they work in the fire department, they're all kind of congenial anyway, right? I mean, they get along well with each other and
Yeah.
they help each other, and they're the kind of people, basically, to begin with, don't you think?
Yeah, we have very little personnel problems. Most of our people are very easy to get along with.
Yeah.
They're very active.
Yeah.
They're very aggressive. They want to do the job.
Yep.
So because of that, they get along very well, and they're always looking for things to do. So.
Yeah, well, that's great. What are the department's scope and responsibilities?
Well, one of our responsibilities is review and survey all matters concerning developments, buildings, and building renovation projects. We review all the building plans, including new buildings, any type of renovations, zoning changes, to ensure that they're compliant with local, state, and federal fire codes and our response requirements. Fire, structural and non-structural, car fires, brush fires, any related rescues. That's within our scope. Also, utility emergency disruptions, whether it be gas, electric, water and sewer. These prompt the department to interact with many utility agencies, both public and private. Fire prevention and awareness with a proactive safety education program for all age groups. As I said, that we bring the apparatus, or we have the kids come to us from the schools as well as the preschools. And we also have a safety program in which David was a very big part of developing and implementing, as well as presenting to our elderly people. We've gone into our elderly housing projects because we do have a large bulk of calls there for food on the stove calls and the smoke alarms going off. So David has gone and he's done presentations there and classes to try to get the people familiar with the operations of the stove and you know, how not to have the alarms go off and how not to have emergencies within the home that are fire or rescue related. And that's been very successful thus far.
Yeah. I can remember my dad, when he was older, he got Alzheimer's at a relatively early age, 75 or so. And I used to get real nervous when I went into that kitchen, I can tell you, because he had a gas stove and, you know, I've always worried about him there.
Well, David's done a great job with that and has worked very closely with the Housing Authority so we can present these programs on a continuing basis.
Yeah, that's
so
great.
It's worked out very well for us in the community.
Yeah.
We work with all the town's federal and state agencies to provide a comprehensive hazardous materials response team to the community. Most of our department is hazardous material operational level. And those that are not, we are looking in our strategic plan within the next several years to have everyone up to the same level of training so that we provide one level of service. We continue to train and upgrade our equipment as much as we can as the demands of hazmat continue to change.
This area, as you know, has a lot of hazardous material around.
A lot of it goes through on the roadways every day. Yeah.
You don't even know it.
I don't doubt it.
We train and continue to upgrade our equipment to meet the requirements that enable us to respond to various transportation incidents and crashes. We assist the community in weather-related emergencies and natural disasters like storms, floods, blizzards, heat waves. And we continue to train and remain proficient in cold water rescue because we have the lake, and that's always a concern during the winter months. Confined space, we not only provide the confined space responsibilities for this town, but we provide it to our mutual aid towns because many of them are too small to be able to purchase or train for that type of emergency.
For those who don't understand the term, what do you mean by hazmat?
Well, hazardous materials are any type of material, whether it be a liquid, a solid, or a gas, that could provide harm to someone, whether it's a gasoline tanker, it could be a propane truck, it could be radioactive material, which on occasion does pass through town. So things like that could be hazardous materials or things similar to that.
Is there anything that's not allowed to pass through town because it's too hazardous?
I'm not aware of anything that's restricted from moving through
So
town.
anything could go through our town?
Yeah, sometimes there are restrictive times. A lot of hazardous materials or a lot of radioactive things pass through during the early morning hours when there's less traffic on the roadway, less people apt to be out and less problems that they might encounter. So there's a lot of times there's things that you don't see that are still continuing through the community.
When I read your performance plan, I noticed that the fire department has 12 goals in the performance plan. Can we discuss each of these in very general and specific terms? Give some specific examples when you want. We've still got plenty of time. We've got 25 minutes here, so I think we could, touch on some of this as we go through it.
Sure. What we have is we provided 12 goals within our strategic plan and their associated objectives and strategic initiatives. So we have the goal and we have how we need to reach that goal in the performance plan section of the strategic plan. We do have a copy available from the fire department for anyone who is interested in getting a copy of this, reviewing it, and certainly, like we talked about at the beginning, this is a fluid plan. It's always subject to change. So if people in the community have suggestions to be able to change things, add to it, we certainly will add that or change whatever we feel may be necessary and productive for us.
That's good. That's healthy. What is goal number 1?
Well, the first goal is to establish a replacement plan for our aging fire apparatus, and this has 3 objectives.
Can you tell us what the 3 objectives are?
The first is to comply with the mandates established by the NFPA, which is the National Fire Protective Agency, and there are 4 strategic initiatives associated with this objective. For example, the second is to specify apparatus space the department needs. The third is future needs. What are the future needs of the department?
Okay, for example?
Well, we do have the strategic goal here, and we will go
Yeah,
through
just
that.
read a few so people can see how the detail that
Certainly.
you've gone into there.
For our first objective, complying with NFPA, we have continue with federal inspections. We federally inspect all of our apparatus on an annual basis, upgrade our lighting based on funding, review annual regulations to see rather than purchases, is it feasible to retrofit what our existing equipment is. And we are in the process of implementing maintenance standards and policies so we can maintain the equipment to the best equipment that we can have. As far as specifying apparatus based on the needs of the department, we talked about combining the Engine 5, which is a daytime driver's vehicle, and the rescue into one vehicle, so having a rescue pumper. We're looking at Engine 4 when we replace Engine 4, which is on Halbert Avenue, putting a rescue tool on it. Right now the rescue tool is on the tower truck, and that's a very large, cumbersome piece of equipment, as well as an expensive piece of equipment to have responding to motor vehicle accidents on a continual basis. Our policy right now mandates that we send a rescue and the pumper to motor vehicle accidents. So our plan is that to have the pumper have that second rescue tool available to it, as well as be able to provide the fire suppression needs that it might need. We're looking to, if we cannot replace Engine 5 and the rescue with one piece, actually replacing the rescue with a new rescue truck, and purchasing Engine 5. Right now it's a large piece of apparatus. We're looking at getting more of a mini pumper, so it's more versatile, easier to get around the community, and be able to do multitask, whether it's brush or whether it's weather-related emergencies or whether it's fire suppression. And we are looking at, the tower truck was purchased in 1994. We're looking at, within the next 10 years, we really are going to have to seriously look at start purchasing a new one. And so we have that in our strategic plan too, because down the road, we're looking at a price of about $1 million at the time it needs to be replaced.
Wow.
And that's going to be a large piece of money that the town's going to have to put up to replace.
And there's no sinking fund.
There is no sinking fund for any apparatus at this point.
It's a shame.
Our future needs, we have a very large body of water in the community, as well as many others in Winchester Center. And we have no boat or any type of boat for water rescues. When they take the police boat out for the winter time, we are left with nothing to provide any type of water rescue. So we're looking at getting some type of boat, whether it be a small boat, rubber boat, or a jet ski for water rescues. We're looking for a more versatile fire police vehicle than we have now, something more workable for the fire police to use. Some type of brush truck. We talked about if in fact the large building development goes down on the Winsted Road. We're looking at putting maybe another firehouse in that area and putting maybe a quint in that area. What a quint is it's a pumper truck with a small ladder on it. Usually they're about 55 feet. So we can provide the necessary fire protection for that area and have a quick response vehicle that can do several things at one time, provide laddering, provide water suppression or water. So we're looking at that in the future if the community begins to grow that way.
Yeah, good. Well, it will eventually. I mean, there's no doubt about it. They're already starting to put the water, you know, the water and sewer,
Right.
the plans into the Connecticut POCD and things. So over time, that's all going to happen.
But this all does come down to adequate funding, and that's the biggest obstacle that we're going to have for most of the strategic plan, as well as the apparatus replacement, is getting the proper funds.
That's a common statement made in Winsted, at these times anyway. The second goal.
The second goal is inspect and replace safety equipment and structural firefighting clothing. Over the last several years, the National Fire Protection Agency has implemented many new rules. That has to do with replacement of our air bottles to replacement of our protective clothing. And although we did get new protective clothing 7 years ago, they have put a 10-year limit on the use of that. So within the next 3 years, we have to seriously look at replacing the protective clothing that the firefighters have. We just went through with the present budget, the replacement of our air bottles. They have a 15-year life. Right now, they're 12 years old. So over the next 3 years, we had to start looking at how we're going to replace those. They're $1,000 a piece, and we have 45 cylinders. So
What happens if you don't follow some of these mandates? What happens?
well, what happens is that if somebody gets hurt, you know, OSHA will come in, and because there's national standards that are published and are recommended, OSHA can find that you did not follow these standards, and if they contributed to the injuries or the death of the firefighter or anything else, then certainly the community could be liable for not providing that type of protection. And if we don't provide our volunteers with the necessary equipment to do the job and protect them to do it, then we're going to start losing volunteers, because people aren't going to risk their lives continually and not have the necessary equipment and not be able to perform their job, which
In a safe manner.
In a safe manner,
which could lead
correct.
to other issues.
Of course. You know, I think a lot of people realize that most of the people are volunteers. They don't always realize how much training and equipment they need to be effective volunteers and to do their work in safety.
Every year they continue to change our training mandates. You know, it used to be that to be a firefighter, you used to go through about 20 or 30 hours of training, basic firefighting school. And now we're up into the 200 hours of a person volunteering to have to go to the same training as a career member. I mean, you know, there's no difference between volunteers and careers as far as the type of call you go to. We all go to fires and accidents. So we have to do the same training. It's unfortunate that the volunteers work their day job all day, and at night they have to go to school to you know, become as proficient.
Do any of them pick up and leave to become professional firefighters and get paid for it?
Yeah.
Get that very often?
We do occasionally. But many of the people who do go become professional firefighters still live in the community or live in the area, and they still continue to volunteer.
Oh, that's good.
So we do have career firefighters who are members of the department, and not only do they go and work their day job, but they still come back and volunteer for their community, as well as things that they do learn as career firefighters, they bring back to us to help us with our training needs.
That's great.
So it works out both ways for us.
Okay, what's the third goal?
Our third goal is to upgrade and replace present station facilities. You know, as we talked about earlier, Station 1 renovations. We're looking to hopefully replace it with a modern building. We did recently meet with some of the selectmen to try to get another committee together to begin looking at building a new building and maybe starting to budget for or look for monies to replace that station. But we have issues with the building now. We're looking to upgrade the security of the building overall, the furnace again, our electrical system, our dispatch room, energy efficient windows to help with the heating. Some of these we've started, if anybody's driven past the firehouse recently, we've started to paint the trim on the firehouse. So all the painting's being done right now. Looking at upgrading the grounds. Up until recently, our fire headquarters has never had a flagpole. We just made that purchase within the last couple of weeks. We're waiting for it to come in, and we'll be erecting a flag at the firehouse for the first time. You know, Station 2, we're looking at, which is our Prospect Street Firehouse. Again, it has the original windows in it. We're looking to make them more energy efficient. We're looking to upgrade the houseman facilities. We actually have firefighters, volunteers, who live in the firehouses and provide security by living there, as well as quick response. When they're there at night, they are obligated, based upon their living there, to respond with the apparatus or with the fire truck to calls.
Got a fire pole in there?
No fire poles. No. So we're looking to upgrade their living facilities. Their living facilities have not been upgraded since the building was built, so since 1956. We're looking to install emergency generators. One of our stations on Halbert Avenue doesn't even have an emergency generator, so when the power goes out, they have to manually pull the doors up, and they have no power in the firehouse at the time. So there's many things that we need to do to improve the present facilities that we have, should we not build a new firehouse.
Right. That's good. The fourth goal.
The fourth goal is to update and upgrade our present communication and radio infrastructure system. We're looking at updating our pagers. We did get some new pagers, which alert the firefighters that there's a call for service and to go to the firehouse. We upgraded them several years ago. We've had many maintenance problems with them. David and I just went to an exposition in Baltimore this past weekend that we paid out of our pocket to go to look at new equipment and to look at improvements to the department. And one of those down there that we looked at were new pagers by a new company. They seem to be more versatile. They seem to be more operator friendly, and they seem to be heavier duty than the ones we presently have. So they can take, you know,
More durable.
Yeah, more durable. So we're looking at replacing those in the future, and they're actually less expensive than the pagers we purchased recently. That also helps with overall maintenance over time, so it's less that we have to put in as far as maintenance problems with them. We're looking to update portable radios. We're looking to add an additional portable radio to every piece of apparatus. We have firefighters that go into the building without portable radios, which can present a very dangerous thing. So we're looking to put as many as we can on there so that every firefighter that gets off, or every group of firefighters, has a portable radio when they're in a building, when they're doing rescue or search operations or fire operations. We're looking at adding additional channels on there so we can have better communication with some of our mutual aid companies or some of the communities around us. We're looking at updating our dispatching system. We're looking to allow multi-jurisdictional communication, looking to put pre-plans at both the fire department and the police department dispatch centers that we have right now. So when there is a call for service, we can pull that pre-plan up. They can tell us exactly where the nearest fire hydrant is, what type of hazards might be in the building, what if there's disabled people that might be in the house that we need to immediately go to rescue. We're looking to implement a new dispatching policy to make things more efficient, and more streamlined for the department. We are continuing to look at right now of moving our dispatching to Litchfield County Dispatch, which is a more regional dispatch center, and will also help us with our mutual aid dispatching.
That's great.
And we're looking at somewhere down the road putting laptop computers in the fire apparatus so that when we do respond to calls, information that we might need or some searching that we might need regarding either hazmat or some type of rescue services will be available to us right there on the computer, or be able to go online to look at that information up.
Yeah, that's very good. You know, I was involved, I think I'm going to have it on a future program. I've already written a bit of the script for it. I was involved in the first police station, police department in the country that put computers into their cars. Now, of course, they wouldn't do it without them, right?
Right,
You know?
exactly.
But it was Pennsylvania State Police in Pennsylvania. I was working at the time with UNIVAC computer company. So I understand the importance of communications. I keep telling people we got to have the best software in the town hall. We got to have the police and the fire department get the best communicating equipment they can find, and keep it up to date. That's the important thing.
I agree.
Yeah. Goal number 5.
Goal number 5 is our improvement of department training. We're looking to improve our company training, which is each individual company. As a matter of fact, last night we had a training meeting, and we're looking at actually assigning weekly drills to the companies so that they remain proficient in what we provide for services. We're looking at beginning training for assigned duties. We're looking for our engine company people to get focused training on fire suppression and engine company duties. Our ladder company people doing ladder company operations, which is ventilation, search and rescue, things of that type. We're looking at improving our officer training. We're looking at including training for officers, including officer development, leadership, conflict resolution, discipline problems, any sexual harassment, racial diversity, and improving their communication skills as officers.
Very important stuff.
Yeah, what we started to do, we have a monthly officers meeting, and we've started to put some officer training in some of those meetings. We look at reviewing some of the recent NIOSH reports and things of that type. And we're looking at upgrading some department training things that we have now, including training aids and things of that type, so all our people remain compliant and that type of thing.
Okay, goal number 6.
Goal number 6 is our recruitment and retention of members. We're looking at different ways to retain our members that we presently have, and looking at ways to recruit our members.
And just give me 1 or 2 examples of what you do.
Our retention, we're looking at updating our pension policy. We're exploring a pay-per-call, so people will get a stipend for going out to calls. We're looking at recognizing the top people who go to calls. And as far as recruitment, advertisements, maybe possibly a show here on Cable 13 to try to entice
Yeah, that'd
people,
be a good idea.
show them what we do.
We're going to have a booth at the carnival coming up in a few weeks.
Yep.
Okay, goal number 7.
Goal number 7 is the fire protection and public education. We're looking at continuing with elderly fire prevention and awareness classes, which David has been doing, and that's at all of our elderly housing projects, as well as those projects or those developments where the elderly live. Continuing with school fire prevention and awareness classes, and that's to all of our public schools, all of our parochial schools, as well as all of the preschools. We're looking at adding to our fire prevention personnel by offering classes so people can get trained in fire prevention duties. And looking at adding educational opportunities. We're looking at adding a babysitting class for the community so kids can come and learn that if they are going to be babysitting, they can learn CPR, basic first aid,
Yeah, that's great.
what to do in an emergency, and things of that type.
Good. Okay, goal number 8.
Goal number 8 is replacement and purchase of non-motorized equipment. Upgrade of present equipment. Many people know that we've been trying to upgrade our 2.5-inch hose. We've been half successful because we got half of it purchased over the last several years.
Yeah.
We're still working on getting it, and we're doing it piecemeal because of the budget crisis. Thermal imaging cameras. We have thermal imaging cameras now that are the original cameras. The technology has changed drastically since those cameras were purchased,
Sure.
and we really need to replace those. And new equipment. We're looking at buying new pumps for cellar pump outs. Our Hearst extrication tool is the original tool purchased by the Ambulance Association back in the early 70s. So it's seen its day. It's a very tired piece of equipment, and we really need within the next several years to replace that.
Okay, let's try goal number 9. We'll get a taste of that.
Goal number 9 is to improve our ISO fire suppression rating. The downtown area is a level 4, which is excellent. But our outlying areas are an 8 and a 9. Places like the lake, all that water, and they're a 9, which is almost as bad as you can get. So we're looking at putting in some dry hydrants. We're looking at to see how our response up there, by changing our response, can we reduce it and possibly save all the people who live up there some monies on their insurance.
Yeah, we just put a dry hydrant. I think it's a dry hydrant. I'm positive on Vaughn's Lane. The town just put a hydrant up there. I don't know whether
not a
that's
dry hydrant.
No.
They may have replaced a hydrant up there.
No,
'cause
they
I
put a
know-
new hydrant. You know where you go over, you go up Vaughn's Lane and over Chlorinator Road.
Right.
Right up in back of my place. There's a fire hydrant there now. Don't ask me if it's dry or wet or what.
Well, a dry hydrant is actually a pipe that would extend into the lake, and we would use the lake water.
Yeah, I don't think it's that. Right.
And,
No,
and that's what we're looking to do. We're looking to
Yeah.
put those up at the lake in areas that we can use the lake water all the way around, because
Sure.
the lake is not a hydrant. There are no fire hydrants in that district. So.
Yeah. So what would this fire hydrant be up there if it's not a dry hydrant?
I think the water line used to come down.
That's
or
it.
still
You got it.
does come
Say no
down.
more. Yeah, it's right. That's the old
Probably a
chlorinator
purge
plant.
point or something.
It's 100 feet from the old chlorinator plant. Goal number 10.
Goal number 10 is to increase the efficiency of our department operations. We continue to update our policies. So we've done about 75 policies this year. updating them, implementing new ones. It gives the people more of a direction and more of a guide of when they're faced with a situation. They have a guideline now to use to be able to mitigate what the circumstances are.
Good.
We're looking at implementing fireground rehabilitation requirements to make it safer for the firefighters to operate in a fireground. We're looking at a department-wide voluntary wellness program. We're looking at continuing to improve our mutual aid. We're looking at conducting annual inventory of apparatus and barcoding and computer entries. We're looking at evaluating what type of hose loads we have, increasing the people who live in the firehouses, our houseman pools, so we can get additional people that are living there. We're looking at charging for services. While we were down in Baltimore, there's an ability to charge for service. Now, that would not be the homeowner who would be getting charged. If we go and provide a service and the person makes a claim on their insurance, the insurance company would reimburse us for our services, which would then reimburse the community for the time.
Big help. Okay, goal, we got a few more minutes. Goal number 11, and then goal number 12. And
goal number 11 is our firefighter health and safety program. We have done this year and will continue to do OSHA inspections of the firehouses to find where we have deficiencies and improve and fix what needs to be done. We try to conform to NFPA requirements. We are proposing some new town ordinances, one of them being lock boxes on the outside of buildings for us for entry, any hazardous material markings on buildings, residential sprinklers on large square footage buildings. We're getting these buildings built in the outskirts of town that are thousands and thousands of square feet, and they're thousands of feet off the road, and it's becoming difficult for us to provide proper fire service to them.
Okay, well, we're getting towards the end now, and I think your goal number 12, we discussed quite a bit already, future technology, computers, and staying up to date with things and all that.
That is correct.
So what I want to do is I want to say to Chief Shopey and Assistant Chief Sartarana, you certainly have thought this out. I'm glad to see all this planning, and you're doing a very good job. The whole department is doing a good job. I noticed that when I was at the select meeting and you made your presentation, and you have a lot of work on your plate. I wish you success in the carnival coming up next week that we've been showing the poster for today. It starts next Wednesday, a week from Wednesday. 2 weeks from
12th.
yeah,
August 12th.
On the 12th. Okay, so let's hope everybody shows up there and has a good time.
Let's hope it doesn't rain.
Yeah, hope it doesn't rain. And this
Fireworks on
program-
Friday.
Our program, Planning for Success, which you're certainly doing plenty of, wishes you continued success and really appreciates the efforts of you and your team of volunteers. And let's hope that the town, one way or another, through a lot of hard work, can raise the additional revenue necessary to satisfy all of these needs over time. I think that everyone in town realizes that the town needs the protection, that you're doing a good job, but that you need to keep improving everything almost to keep up with the state of the art. And I'd like to say thanks to all.
Thank you.